Hello, so we are now back with our second lesson for week number 30 and 31, sorry, and we're going to be working on our fractions, and we're going to be comparing them using common numerators and denominators. So remember the last lesson we were just how to find our common numerators and denominators. Now we're going to use that to help us compare fractions. So remember, when we compare fractions, we use the symbols greater than, less than, and equal to. So using each of these symbols, so this one's greater than, this one's less than, and this one's equal to. Using those symbols, that's what we're going to be using to be able to compare our fractions with one another. And we're going to have to find common numerators or common denominators to help us figure that out. So Suki runs 7/12 of a mile. Lonnie runs 3/4 of a mile. Who runs farther? So we're going to use a common denominator to compare the fractions. So before we get to this question, because it kind of is giving it away, if I look at my denominators, I have a 12 and I have a 4. And I think about this. What number could they have in common? What could I do to one of the fractions so that way I could have the same denominator as the other fraction? Well, I know that 4, if I multiply 4 times 3, I'm going to get 12, right? So why is 12 a good choice to use as a common denominator for the two fractions? Because 12 is a multiple of both 4 and 12, meaning I can multiply 4 times 3 to get 12. Excuse me. So 12 is a multiple of both 4 and 12. So that's why it's a good choice to use. So let's see if we can figure out by using this relationship between 12 and 4, we can write 3/4 as an equivalent fraction with the common denominator of 12. So we're going to have to multiply 3 over 3, right? Because 3 times 4 equals 12, and it has to be the same numerator and denominator. So 3 times 3 would equal 9. So if we have 7/12 compared to 9/12, we could see that 7/12 is what? It is less than 9/12. There are less pieces you're going to get. They're going to be the same size, but you're only going to get 7 here. You get 9 there. So because 7/12 is less than 9/12 and 9/12 is an equivalent fraction to 3/4, 7/12 is less than 3/4. So who runs further, Suki or Lonnie? Suki ran 7/12 of a mile. Lonnie ran 3/4 of a mile. So Lonnie runs farther. And because 3/4 is greater than 7/12. Oops. Oh my goodness, I did it again. I apologize. If I'm not looking at the screen and I'm just looking at my paper, it doesn't help me pay attention well. I apologize. So Lonnie runs farther because 3/4 is greater than 7/12. So let's do some more comparing. So we're going to turn to the next page, 288. And we have Dorothy. And Dorothy swims 2/5 kilometer. Duke swims 3/8 kilometer. Who swims farther? This time we're going to use common numerators to compare our fractions. So we're going to list the multiples for the numerators and circle the common multiple. So we've got 2 and we have 3 because we're using our numerators. So multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to list the first 5. Multiples of 3, 3, 6. Ooh, do I even need to get to the 5th one? No, I can see that 6 they have in common. So if I multiply 2 by 3, I'm going to get 6. And if I multiply 3 by 2, I'll get 6. So I need to multiply my 2/5 by 3 over 3. And that will give me 6/15. And then I'm going to multiply my 3/8 by 2 over 2. And that'll give me 6/8. So if I have 6/15 compared to 6, oh, I'm sorry, what am I doing? 2 times 8 is 16. Wowzers, I apologize. Wow, sorry about that. So I have 6/15 and 6/16. So remember, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the pieces. Smaller denominator, the bigger the pieces. So if I have 6 pieces that are broken into 15ths, and I have 6 pieces that are broken into 16ths, my 16ths are a little bit smaller than my 15ths. So that means that 6/15 is greater than 6/16, which means 2/5 is greater than 3/8. So who swims farther? Well, it would be whoever swam 3/5, which was Dorothy. So Dorothy swims farther. Make sure I spell her name right. And we know that she swims farther because 2/5 is greater than 3/8. So sometimes you're going to need to find a common numerator. Sometimes you're going to need to find a common denominator. You just have to remember, numerator, you're finding how many pieces. Denominator is the size of the pieces. Always remember that. Okay, so we're going to check understanding. I'm going to zoom us in better because when we get down to this part of the paper, it is really hard to see. Ellie ran 5/6 mile on Monday and 7/8 mile on Tuesday. Did she run farther on Monday or on Tuesday? All right, so what are we going to do? Find a common numerator or denominator? What would you like to do? I think I'm going to find a common denominator because if I'm counting by 6's, I know that I can get to 24. And if I'm counting by 8's, I know that I can get to 24. So I can get them in common. So if I have 5/6 and I want to get to 24's, I need to multiply my top and my bottom by 4. So 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 times 6 is 24. So then I've got my 7/8. And I know I want to get to 24 on the bottom. So I had to multiply 8 times 3 to get to 24. So that means I have to multiply 7 times 3, and that's 21. So we have 20 24ths and 21 24ths, so that means that 20 24ths is less than, or 5/6 is less than 7/8. So which day did she run further? She ran further on Tuesday. And we can see our explain is our work here, right? Because we can see that 5/6 is less than 7/8 because 20 24ths, which is an equivalent fraction to 5/6, is less than 21 24ths, which is an equivalent fraction to 7/8. Okay, we're going to compare our fractions down here. So do we want to do numerator or denominator? I think I'm going to do denominator again. Let's do 24s again because we know that we can multiply 3 times 8 to get 24. So if I multiplied 3 times 8, I have to multiply 2 times 8, which gives me 16. And then 8 times 3 is 24, and 7 times 3 is 21. So that means that 16 24ths is less than 21 24ths. So 2/3 is less than 7/8. 2/5, 4/10. Ooh, this one I like because I've got 5 and a 10. So all I'm going to have to do is do some work to the 2/5. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. Oh, look at those two. 4/10 is equal to 4/10. So that tells me that 2/5 is an equivalent fraction to 4/10. Then we have 8/5 and 3/2. And both of these are improper fractions, right? But we'll keep them improper for this problem. So again, I'm going to do the denominator. I like the denominator. It makes it a lot easier for me. But if you wanted to do the numerator, that's fine. So we want to get these to be a common denominator. I know I can multiply them by the opposite denominator. So 8/5 I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2. So 8 times 2 is 16. 5 times 2 is 10. And I'm going to multiply this one by 5 over 5. So 5 times 3 is 15, and 5 times 2 is 10. So I have tenths on the bottom. 16 tenths is greater than 15 tenths. So 8/5 is greater than 3/2. So now we're at the on your own section. If you want to do this independently and come back and check your work, you could pause the video and then come back and check, or just stay right with me and do the work with me. Isaiah hikes 11/12 mile along the Lakeview Trail. Cheryl hikes 3/5 mile along the same trail. Who hikes farther? Use a fraction comparison strategy to support your reasoning. So we have 3/5 compared to 11/12. Numerator or denominator? How about we do our denominator? Okay, so we'll have to multiply by opposite denominators. So I know that I'm going to have to multiply 3/5 by 12 over 12. So 5 times 12 is 60. 3 times 12 is 36. So then I'm going to multiply 11/12 by 5 over 5. 5 times 11 is 55. 12 times 5 is 60. So 36/60 is less than 55/60. So that means 3/5 is less than 11/12. So who hikes farther? Isaiah hikes farther. Because 11/12 is greater than 55, or than 3/5, or 3/5 is less than 11/12. Okay, let's do some comparing. We have 4/3 compared to 5/4. Again, I'm just going to do the denominator. For me, I like that, but because down here, look, we're going to need to do a numerator. So let's see. So let's multiply by the opposite fraction. So we're going to, or denominator. So we're going to multiply by 4 over here. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12. Multiply by 3 over here. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12. 16/12 is greater than 15/12. Over here, why don't we do actually common numerators, because I would only have to change something on this side. So if this is a 2 and this is a 1, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 2 over here. So I would have 2/12. So if I have 2/12 compared to 2/10, 12ths are smaller pieces. Remember, the bigger the number on the bottom, the smaller the pieces, and these are bigger pieces. So I would rather have 2/10 over 1/6. So 1/6 is less than 2/10. And then we have 9/12 and 6/8. So let's do, this one's hard. Not hard, but let's do denominators for this one. Let's do 12ths, because we know we can get 12, or 24ths, I mean, because we can get 12 to 24ths and 8 to 24ths. So if I do 24ths, that means I'm multiplying by 2. So 9 times 2 is 18. So this I want to get to 24ths, so I need to multiply by 3. So 3 times 6 is 18. Oh, look at that. 18/24ths, 18/24ths, so 9/12 is equivalent to 6/8. So they are equal. All right, we get to write a numerator that makes each statement true. So we need to figure out what number we should put up here to make this true. So we need to figure out 1/4 is greater than how many sixths? Well, if I do the same numerator, right, 1, I know that fourths are bigger than sixths, so 1/4 has to be bigger than if I have 1/6. We have something fifths compared to 4/10. This is going to be less than that. So let's think about this. I could divide the top and the bottom of this one by 2. And I'm going to get 2/5. So I need to be less than that, so I could do 1/5. Right? Because this is an equivalent fraction. 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. So I could just put 1/5 here. And then 9/8 is greater than, now 9/8, if I look at this, 9/8, this means it's greater than 1, right? Anytime the top number, the numerator, is bigger than the denominator, that means this number is greater than 1 whole. So I could just put a 1/2. Isn't 1/2 less than? I could have put a 2 as well. 2 halves would be 1 whole, which still would be less than 9/8. So all of these could have a 1. All right. Marcos rides his bicycle, sorry, shortened it. Marcos rides his bicycle 6/4 miles. Janice rides her bicycle 14/8 miles. Janice says she rides farther than Marco because 14 is greater than 6. Do you agree with Janice's reasoning? Well, I don't agree with her reasoning because they don't have anything in common. So you can't just look at the numerators and say that it's right. So I don't agree with how she solved the problem, but we don't know if she's right or not because we need to see if we can figure out the relationship. So we're not going to use visual models. We're just going to use our math with our multiplication to figure this out. So if I have 6/4 and I'm comparing it to 14/8. So I see that I have a 4 and an 8. So they have this 4 in common. So if I were to take my 6/4 and multiply it by 2/2, I would have 12/8 compared to 14/8. So that means that 12/8 is less than 14/8. 6/4 is less than 14/8. So Janice was right that she rides further, but her reasoning was not right. Because you can't just say that 14 is greater than 6, so you're right. You have to do this, you have to find either a common denominator or a common numerator to figure out for sure what she did was right. So I don't agree with how she solved the problem, but she is correct. She rode further. So I'm going to say, however, Janice did ride farther than Marcos. So even though her reasoning was flawed, her reasoning didn't work, she was correct with what she said. But she could very well be wrong the next time because she wasn't doing it correctly. So make sure that that you're finding either the common numerator or the common denominator. All right, our last page, 290. So Michelle has 4/6 cup of blueberries. Robin has a greater amount of blueberries, but they are measured in eighths. What could be the amount of blueberries that Robin has? So Michelle has 4/6. So this is Michelle. Robin has eighths, but hers are greater than Michelle's. So we have to figure out what her numerator could be. what could she have? Well, if I look at 4/6, couldn't she have 8/8 cup, right? Which would be a full cup. She could also have 7/8 cup, because if we multiply the top and the bottom by 24 to get to 24ths, so this would be times 4, and 4 times 4 would be 16, and then 24 is down here, right? And then we would need to multiply 7 times 6. No. 8 times 3. No, 7 times 3, sorry. Oh my goodness, my brain. It's Sunday morning. So we would have 21 24ths. So we could either have 7/8 or we could have 8/8 as our total for Robin. I apologize. I hope that wasn't too confusing. So it's just trying to find out how you get a common denominator, and then what could you get as a numerator to make it so this statement is true. So it could be this or this. Which would you use to compare 10/12ths and 2/5ths? A common numerator or a common denominator? Explain. So for this one, if we have 2/5ths compared with 10/12ths, looking at these numbers, I probably would use the numerator because they are both even numbers. And that means that 10 is a multiple of 2. And 10 is a multiple of 2. So I'm going to use that strategy. So I'm only going to have to multiply our 2/5ths because I'm going to get it to tenths. So if I multiply it by 5/5, oops, I'll do an equal sign, I apologize again, we'll have 10/25ths. So if I have 10/25ths compared to 10/12ths, 12ths is a lot bigger, right, than 25ths. So 2/5ths is less than 10/12ths. All right, greater than, less than, or equal to. Well, since we have a 2 here, let's just change this so we have a common numerator. So if I multiply this by 2/2, I would get 2/16, right? 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Sixths are bigger than 16ths, so 1/8 is less than 2/16. So again, down here, I'm only going to change this 1 because 6 is a multiple of 3. So I'm going to multiply this by 2/2. So 3 times 2 is 6. 18 times 2 is 16. If I compare tenths and 16ths, tenths are bigger than 16ths, right? You're going to have bigger pieces, so less than. And then this one, I think I'm going to compare my denominators instead of my numerators. So I could do 5, because if I multiply by 5, I would have 55/60ths, right? So I'm going to have 60ths. So I'm going to multiply this one by 6, so I would have 54/60ths. Ooh, this one's super close. So 54/60ths is less than 55/60ths. So 9/10 is less than 11/12. Sasha and Elliot are picking strawberries. Sasha picks 7/5 pounds of strawberries. Elliot picks 8/6 pounds of strawberries. Who picks more strawberries? So we have 7/5 and we have 8/6. And they want us to write these as mixed numbers, meaning they want us to find out what is our whole number and our fraction. Okay? So if I pull out a 5/5, what would I add to 5/5 to equal 7/5? I would add 2/5. So I know that 5/5 is the same as 1 whole and 2/5 will be added to that. So 7/5 is equivalent to 1 whole and 2/5. 8/6. I'm going to use my denominator so I know that I can pull out a 6/6. That's my 1 whole. Plus, what adds to 6/6 to equal 8/6? 2/6. So that would be the same as 6/6 is 1 whole and 2/6. So now I can use these mixed numbers to compare because they have the same numerator. So if I compare them, I have 1 and 2/5 compared to 1 and 2/6. My 1 whole is the same, so now I just look at my fractions. 2/5 would be greater than 2/6, right? 2/5 is greater than 2/6. So that means that 1 and 2/5 is greater than 1 and 2/6, which in turn means 7/5 is greater than 8/6. So who picks more strawberries? Sasha. So Sasha picks more strawberries. So you have the black and white worksheet 11.6. Kane, you have the worksheet that I sent home that does not have as much the wording on it. So you can complete that. And when you are finished, you can send that in. And then next week we'll finish this module and we will start a new one. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I hope to see you soon. All right, bye everybody.